Dudes to Dads is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads. Alan, another week. How are you?
Awesome.
With authority.
With authority. I am fantastic.
That's good.
So much so that-
Episode 133. Are you ready for 133?
Yeah, that's getting crazy, man.
So, two episodes back, I had mentioned the idea. I love when I think of an idea and then it actually comes to fruition. Right. I had thought of the topic of talking about anger with dads. And so this episode is called Anger Management for Dads. Mm-hmm. Tips to control your temper.
Okay, great.
And the reason for this is because I think it's a common thing that, dads have a tendency to maybe have a little bit more temper issue than moms. Not all the time.
No, or it could be equally so, or, But
I think we all deal with the emotion. We have, different levels of temper, different levels of anger, but it's real, and we all get angry. I think as a dad, though, it's important to learn how to control the anger, especially because the kids are watching.
Right.
And they're watching how we react. They're watching how we deal with things. And I don't think that most of us want to be angry. It's not like, you want to be in that state. We just sometimes can't help it.
Yep.
The reality is that being angry is a choice.
Right.
We choose. Now, it might not be something that we can easily avoid.
Yeah.
We don't know how.
It's sometimes innate and instinctual to have an emotional reaction, and some people react differently. Anger is one of those, usually those different reactions than someone who gets sad or upset or distraught.
Yeah, I think the context we were talking about before was that when you don't have the tools to deal with the child in a different way, anger's a really easy one to revert to.
Yeah, everything becomes a nail if all you have is a hammer.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to yell. It's easy to, it's easy to get upset and angry instead of actually knowing and feeling confident about how you could deal with a situation.
Right.
Saying, I recognize that. Here's how I will deal with it.
Sure.
Instead of just, not go to your room, really not knowing what to do. So, rewiring our brain is certainly the best way, of rewiring how we deal with stuff and how we think about things, but it's not really realistic in a short term.
Right.
It takes practice. It takes a lot of work. So I wanted to start out first by discussing a couple different types of anger, because they're actually, there's different types of anger. And then go over, a couple scenarios on how we might, be able to control it. So here's some common ones. So the first one is passive anger. This is usually displayed in maybe a not so obvious way. I think some people might use the term passive aggressive or, something like that, where you might use a joke, you might avoid the situation, but basically you're just doing it without being very obvious.
Yeah.
That's passive anger. Another one is overwhelmed anger. This is used sometimes to relieve stress or pain. So we get angry, but it's basically probably the most common of what we think about is just being, getting angry over the demands of life.
Yeah.
It's just whatever that situational thing is, we're just overwhelmed and we get angry. That's common, and especially for dads.
Dads and the working dads.
That have children, and you come home and you might find yourself in a situation and you just, don't handle it correctly.
Right.
Another one is volatile anger. And I think I could see this one happening maybe more with spouses. Maybe it happens with kids too, but this is something that it builds and then erupts like a volcano. Is what they said.
Right. 'Cause all volcanoes are angry.
It can be expressed either physically or verbally, but it's volatile. You know, it's not constant. It comes and goes. Another one, self-inflicted anger. So this is anger that's actually directed at yourself. So you're angry with yourself. That's a unique type of anger. And that often can be from guilt or shame, you know, and you're really just upset with yourself for whatever reason. So that can happen. Another one, judgmental anger. And that's directed at other people. And, you know, you're angry. Your anger can come out as maybe being critical of them or belittling them. You know, and this could be as an example, how other people parent.
Right.
You've probably heard me get angry.
Yeah.
You know, but it's being judgmental of others and getting angry as a result of it.
Right.
And then another one is a big one is chronic anger. And this is more prolonged. I mean, this is something that can actually affect somebody's mental health. You know, that's just anger that lasts for a long time. You know, in most instances, anger is
more of an outburst.
Yeah, it's an outburst. It's fairly short, but if something lasts for a long time, that's a real
like seething.
Yeah, I mean,
simmering anger all the time.
Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, if you find yourself getting angry with your child or with their spouse or whatever, or even yourself, here's a couple ways to deal with it. And these are a couple things that I actually do employ myself that seem to work well. So the first one, count to 10. So it's take a breath and just simply count. Allow yourself to take a break. Now, the key with this is knowing yourself and being able to recognize it. And that's with most of these, is to recognize it before you explode. Before the anger hits the peak, if you will, and comes out. You kind of know that it's happening and you kind of need that reset and you just kind of back off. With kids, sometimes it can be maybe putting your hand over your heart and knowing like, okay, I'm going to make a decision based on my heart right now instead of my head. Right. You know, and so sometimes that can work where you just actually put your hand on your heart. You're like, okay, I just need to calm down for a second. So that works, taking a breath and counting. And 10 seconds is usually plenty of time. Right. For everybody to leave. So for everybody to get out of the house.
Dad's counting to 10 again.
Dad's counting.
Get out of the room. Leave the house.
Yeah. Number 2, take a time out. And so this is actually physically walking away from the situation.
Yeah, I had to learn that one as I got older, not just with kids, but with people that would just super aggravating people, maybe someone I used to date or whatever, because there's some people that just like to push your buttons. And if they're pushing them and they're not thinking clearly, they're not going to be rational. And
kids are amazing button pushers.
Exactly. So I had to learn to go, you know what? I'm going to go over here and
remove
myself from the situation.
For sure. That's, you know, timeouts are not just for kids.
Exactly.
You know, sometimes we need them too.
Right.
I wonder if somebody else can give you the timeout.
You need a timeout. Oh, do I?
Yeah. Number 3, and I think this can happen maybe not in the heat of the moment, but practice meditation or breathing exercises, you know, and that's something I think in general can help you calm yourself and understand the process of calming so that I think your body and your probably your emotional state can recognize it so that you can like go back to it. Yeah. You know, and kind of know, oh, that's the state that I want to be in. Yeah. You know, rather than being in a state of chaos. Right. Same thing with number 4, exercise. You know, now that can happen where I've known, you know, people that they get really upset and then they go for a run. You know, so that can work. That can release some of the tension, release some of the stress, and then release some good hormones. Yeah. So you know, I guess that could be in the heat of the moment where you just need to go do that. You know, and exercise. You know, for me, I work out so early in the morning that hopefully I'm not mad before I go work out because nothing has happened yet. Right.
If you woke up and got angry, then it's
unless I'm pissed off from the day before.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What happened yesterday?
Yeah. What happened yesterday? I can be angry and have a good workout. So yeah. Number 5, you know, this is sort of abstract a little bit, but understand why you are mad. So in dealing with anger, one of the things is to understand why you're mad. And we often get mad at our kids or anybody when we're actually frustrated or mad at something else. So it's not exactly what it appears to be.
Right.
So you want to identify what you're mad at and then figure out, can you actually change it? Do you actually have control over it? Because then you have the decision. It's like, well, if I can't control it, do I need to be mad about it? And what value does that bring to me?
Right.
I was listening to this. Well, I call it a meditation, but it was this guy, and he was talking just about that. It's like, when we're in our household, oftentimes we get mad because it works.
Right.
Like, why would we walk around happy all the time? Because nobody's going to give us any attention and nobody's going to give us anything.
Right.
But we know that if we get really mad, then we get the attention and we make a difference.
And whatever activity we want to happen usually happens at that moment.
Oh, he's mad. Oh, let me give him attention. So it's just kind of interesting. It's like, it doesn't work if you're happy often, so that we've learned that. So that's an interesting one. And then the number 6, self-acceptance or the acceptance of others. So you have to understand that, especially if, this one where the self-inflicted anger, that you're okay, that you are okay on who you are and how you are. And then so are other people. And you have to, here's the thing. It takes practice to do that. So this is not something, oh yeah, I'm good. You have to believe in yourself. You have to understand that you are okay. And then ask yourself, is being mad really the state that I want to be in?
Yeah. You know what? I will say that is what changed me around, because I did have anger issues, I think, because I'm brought up a certain way, and I'm not saying that I reflect what I was given, but I think I didn't know how to deal with my own problems. And a lot of times I kind of raised myself after 18 years old. I was pretty much on my own to deal with everything. And so for me, I would become volatile, not unwarranted, but if something was unusual, I wasn't getting what I wanted.
Just greatly affect you?
Yeah, things would impact me and I'd get really mad. And like, I remember punching holes in walls and stuff like that type of anger. And I wouldn't hurt anybody, but I'd hurt myself. Not because I was mad at myself, but just because I didn't know how else to express it.
Yep.
And I'm like, what am I doing?
What do you think you learned? Well, like, how did you learn?
Just taking a step back and going, is anger the best way to deal with this, really? Like, really evaluating.
Like, what do you get out of it?
Yeah. What am I really doing here? Do I need to relieve stress? Can I do that in a better way that's not destroying the wall? And or
kept having to not get my security deposit back.
Exactly. I don't know why. Yeah. Or breaking things, or also it's impacting the people around me, and I don't want to do that. And granted, I never did hit anybody out of anger, but I never want to get to that stage to where they're worried about that.
Right.
And so I had to learn, like, you know what, even if they're the cause of it, I got to take a step back and go, how can I deal with this a lot better? And it was that question that kind of led me to kind of thinking a different way and how to channel it better. And then I still try to deal with it, but the meditations, the exercise, the self-awareness, that's the huge part of why I stopped doing it. I would say the biggest one for me was self-awareness and going, you know what, I know exactly why I feel a certain way and why I stopped to go. I turned it around. I said, I can't go down this path because I'm too self-aware, where if I do it, I haven't done anything about it.
Well, it's interesting because when you allow somebody else to, quote, make you mad, you give them the power.
Yep.
And it's the opposite of what it is that you're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
So if you want to keep the power, I should say, that's the whole point of it. It's like, whether it's ego or whatever, but the whole point is you want to keep your own power and your own control. By getting angry, you give that up.
Yeah. Yeah. And going into anger or being super upset and hyper emotional, which I do consider anger being a hyper emotion. I was talking to one of my colleagues who, I'm the director at this company, and she said this, I don't know how you do this, but you have this weird Zen state about it. And she's even, admitted, she's like, I don't know how to do that, because some people are not qualified to lead, and certain people that she knows, leaders at other companies or whatever it is, tend to just get upset,
right?
And somewhat volatile about things, and it causes tension. Where I'm going, what's going on here? Let's try to figure it out,
right?
And things just roll off me a lot easier, even if it's coming from above. And I'm like,
Well, it's interesting too. I mean, not to get too deep into it, but I wonder too, because of your upbringing, in people's upbringings, let's say in general, is that if they had a little bit more difficult upbringing, are they better equipped? To handle that
tempered
stress.
in the fires, so to speak.
You know, and I mean, speak for myself. Like, I had a wonderful upbringing, and I had didn't have a lot of trauma and that kind of stuff. I may not deal with negativity as well.
Right.
You know, I don't know how to process it. I haven't dealt with a lot of adversity. I haven't, those kind. I wonder how that comes into play.
No, I agree. I think that that like kind of I was joking about it, but you do get tempered in the fires, so to speak, because my family on either side was never shy about emotions, good or bad. So it's like, I just knew that I knew how to deal. I knew that I was an emotional kind of being, and I'm also hypersensitive to other people's emotions, empathic even. But I didn't know how to control my own. And that was the difference. I had to kind of relearn, like, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to always just react.
Right.
I can also channel it a certain way and understand that, like, I understand that the things I didn't like about the way certain people reacted, and go, okay, I can take the good parts of this stuff, and the rest of it I don't have to do. I don't have to necessarily do everything I learned. You know, like some of it's is negative influence that could be turned positive.
That's cool. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. And then the last one, if these items don't work and you find yourself still getting angry and getting frustrated and you're really not understanding how to deal with it, and especially if it has to do with your children, I mean, granted, anger in general is not good for you. It's certainly an emotion that we should give ourselves permission to have, but then how do we cope with it and how do we deal with it pretty quickly? Get out of it. Is seek professional help. This is, we don't, although we think we have the answers to everything, we don't.
Yeah.
And so if you are having difficulty, you really do want to look at it and say, you know what, maybe I just should talk to somebody. And
counseling does help. It does wonder for certain people that, when they don't know how to really kind of channel the things that you're talking about, getting a different perspective that's outside of you really helps. I know some people like maybe you kind of reluctant. I'm somewhat reluctant to talk to counselors, and I was a psych major.
Well, this is a lot of my therapy.
Catharsis. Catharsis is talking to you on the podcast, so I get this from us talking. But like, not everyone has a podcast outlet and a partner that understands these things about in your whatever you're doing. But it sometimes even to talk to somebody that's not a friend or a family member,
you feel safe talking.
You feel safe. You're outside of it, and it's a different perspective. It's like someone looking in, going, okay, well, this is maybe what you think you should do or how you should think.
Yeah, and it's all about the tools, because the reality is that we can't avoid the stuff often that's happening.
Right.
I mean, our jobs, our lives, I mean, all these things that are happening, our financial situation. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens in life, and how you manifest it and deal with it has a huge effect on you, and these are things that I am learning constantly all the time about how to better deal with the things that I'm dealing with,
right?
At all different aspects of our lives. And so you have that ability to have it affect you greatly or not, know? And so, but until you have some tools, to do that, it's just, it might just affect you too much. And so you've got to do that. And so if seeking professional help is one way to do it, exercise, meditation, take time outs, do breathing exercises. I mean, all of it can be helpful.
Yeah.
You just got to try it and see what works for you. So
right. Yeah,
if you have any feedback, anybody out there has any feedback, what should they do, Alan?
Email us, podcast@dudesdads.com, or you can get in touch with us on our many social media profiles, Twitter @dudesdads, Facebook, dudesdads.com. YouTube has 2 channels now, Dudes to Dads and Dad University. Please check them both out. Jason has a lot of great stuff on the Dad University. iTunes and Stitcher.
Yep.
Both really important for the podcasting audience. Leave reviews, subscribe, leave whatever you want to just put hashtag dads are awesome. Whatever
we keep asking for all this stuff, but it is so important.
We're asking,
I mean,
it's not ego stroking. It helps out perpetuate the show.
No, every podcast we mention it is because it is really important as a listener to help support the show.
Yeah.
And the way that that's done is by the subscriptions and by doing that. And that really helps get us out there and be able to continue doing this.
For sure. We want to share it with as many people as possible. There's a lot of great information being shared amongst us just individually, but otherwise it's just two dudes talking or a dad and a dude talking. But also we want other people to understand what's going on. So we have a lot of listeners now. We want to keep that going. Tell your friends and tell them to
share
the show, show the love.
Right on. So with that, Alan, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And we will see you next week.
See you next week.